Well, welcome back to the North Woods. Got a little something different for you today. Thought we'd make an effort to really confuse the algorithm and keep my channel buried in the deepest and most obscure corners of the platform. Now, as you fellas may know, I'm not one to turn down something with the price tag of free. And several months ago, this little number was gifted to me. We'll take a closer look at it here in a second, but as you might be able to tell, she's seen better days. Not only has the barrel separated itself from the stock, the barrel lug has separated itself from the barrel, and I don't know about you guys, but I don't see a bolt for it here anywhere. And as we can see there, this is a Winchester Model 67A chambered in 22 short, long, or long rifle. Just a nice little single-shot bolt-action 22. I'm sure at some point in its life it was probably someone's go-to squirrel gun. Decent amount of surface rust and moderate pitting on the barrel. And there's a better look at that barrel lug. You can see that is supposed to be attached right about there. At some point that broke off, but I think that's fixable. And that's really all there is to it. Just a really simple little gun. Let's get right into working on that barrel. Now that we have the barrel cleaned up, we need to figure out what we're going to do with the lug that broke off of the barrel, and that's used to lock the barrel into the stock. It almost looks like this has been JB welded before, but I don't think we're going to go that route. I want to clean it up and actually try and weld it in place. This would be a much better idea if I owned and was skilled with a TIG welder, but I am not. I do have a MIG welder, so we'll see what we can do with that. This is going to end poorly. But we're going to do it anyway. Penetration? What's that? Well, not unlike an Amish woman. It ain't pretty, but it'll work. Our barrel's not looking too bad. This is after 2 coats of the Birchwood Casey Perma Blue. That's not my favorite cold blue to use, but it's just what I had here at the house. And I mean, quite honestly, this didn't turn out too terrible. I think the Oxfo Blue, the liquid, works a little bit better than the Perma Blue does. But all things considered, this really isn't that bad. The Perma Blue works great for touch-ups. I've yet to find anything that really works fantastic for doing whole barrels like this. So if you got anything that you like that you use, let me know. Maybe I'll try it out in the future. If you're looking for a brand new finish, I'm sure some kind of hot bluing process is probably the way to go. And you always got Cerakoting and stuff like that too. But for our purposes here, I think this will be just fine. Let's move into the stock and we'll get that disassembled the rest of the way and throw some paint stripper on it. I'm going to be leaving the barrel screw in the stock. It's got a retainer or a collar that's press fit into the stock, and I don't want to try and press that out of there because one, I think it's going to probably damage the wood, and then it's not going to seat as tight when I would press it back in there, I would imagine. So I think that's going to stay in there for now. And as you may have saw there, I sort of screwed up the hole that the trigger pivot pin slides into there. My punch, which was just a nail, slid off the pin and kind of drifted towards the side. So I'll try and fix those little dings with some wood filler. Well, I've given this stripper about 24 hours per the directions on the can, so I got the wife's toothbrush here. We'll go ahead and try and scrub it off and see what kind of a job it did. Kind of looking like I might have to take this outside and actually hose it off. This stuff is still on here pretty thick. Kind of expected that though. I've used it before, but I think it's like one of those citrus-based, environmentally friendly, easier on the senses paint strippers. It does seem to work pretty decent. You do have to let it sit a little bit longer than normal. But again, on the plus side, you can kind of take it outside and hose it down, get it all cleaned up, and not really worry about your lawn or all that stuff leaching into the ground, I guess. It's kind of hard to tell if this did anything. I mean, this is a walnut stock, so it should be looking like this, but to be honest, this actually looks much better than it did when I put it in there, in my opinion. Made the stock look nice and dark and rich, but that's probably just because it's still wet. Judging by the color of the stripper now, I'm guessing it did take off the majority of that stain that was on here, and it probably lifted years of dirt and grime and everything else that was on here as well. I think we'll just have to, like I said, wash it, scrub it real good to get the full effect of what it did. Well, I'm going to go hose this thing down, and I'll be back with you guys once I'm done with that. So there we have a nice, clean, dry walnut stock ready for a new finish. Using a heat gun like that probably isn't the ideal way to get it to dry. You'd probably just want to let it air dry if you're really concerned about the condition of the stock or anything like that. I'm just a pretty impatient fella. I'm sure adding heat to it like that could cause warping in thin spots or cause cracks to show up that may have otherwise not been there. Or I guess make existing cracks worse, possibly. And it's also not, drying out the inside of the wood all the way. As you can see, there's still spots that are kind of showing back up here as moist. So I'm going to let this sit for, I don't know, probably another few hours, if not longer, just to let it dry out all the way. And then we'll come back and figure out what we want to do for a finish. There's also a few spots on here that I think I'm still going to take some very light grit sandpaper to, like this big black spot here. I don't know what that is. It's not finish, not stain. I don't know if that's just something in the wood. But I'm going to try and take some, I don't know, 400 or 600 grit sandpaper to that and see if I can sand it out of there. But who knows, maybe that is part of the wood, I'm not sure. And then down here towards the buttstock here, there are a few sections of leftover old stain that I'm going to try and sand off of there. Really don't like sanding these because if you take sandpaper to them, especially if you take like an orbital sander or something like that, the fit afterwards when you put it back together is obviously just not as good because you're removing material. But again, on this thing it really doesn't matter because the fit and finish are subpar to begin with. Not that they would have been subpar from the factory, but again, this thing could be, approaching 70, 80 years old. So just after all those years of use, it's just gotten worn down a little bit. But anyway, that's enough yapping. I'll bring you guys back in here once I'm ready to throw a finish on it. sanded this dark spot down about as far as I'm comfortable. I at least broke it up a little bit so it's not one big solid patch, but I think we're ready for a finish. So I think we're going to use this Minwax antique oil. I like an oiled stock on these older guns like this better than a stain. Don't ask me why, I think it just looks better. I also enjoy the smell of an oil finish more than I do a stain. So that's what we're going to do. Oiled and buffed. This will more than likely require a few more coats as time goes on, but for now I'm satisfied. Let's go ahead and start putting this thing back together. There you can see the stock has really expanded from the stripping, the washing, and the oiling. So over time, again, that's going to shrink back down. Mostly, probably that happened from when I washed the stripper off of the gun. I'm sure it soaked up a bunch of that water. And like I said, drying it out with that heat gun doesn't dry it out all the way. So again, over time, that's going to shrink back down. So I'll have to keep an eye on that. Again, with this gun, probably doesn't matter too much because I believe it's going to be more of a decoration than anything else. But we'll just have to keep an eye on that, and as needed, keep oiling the stock as it dries out. Alright, unfortunately that is going to be about the end of this project. As I said in the beginning of the video, I did not receive a bolt with this gun. I'm not sure what happened to it, if it broke, if it got lost. I don't know. I didn't really get much of a story with it. There are a few bolts on eBay right now for the 67 series, but they are priced through the roof. I'm not sure what the deal is with that, but they are, geez, probably about double what you would expect something like this to go for on the used rack at your local gun store. I think a couple of them were even priced in the $250 range, and until somebody decides to unfuck the economy, it just doesn't make sense for me to spend that much money on this gun. But what I will do, if this video manages to get enough views to the point that it will fund the purchasing of a bolt for this gun, I will more than happily take the money from this video, drop it on a bolt, throw this thing together, and we can test fire it. So until that point comes, if and when it does, this will make a nice inert decoration in the house that should fit nicely with the rest of everything we got going on in there. So if you liked this video or you want to yell at me because I didn't do something right, please feel free to hit that thumbs up or leave a comment down below. And if you'd like to see a second video on the 67A, feel free to, again, drop a comment down below or share this video, try to get it to as many of your friends as possible, and that way we can buy a bolt for it and send a few rounds downrange. Alright, boys and girls, that is going to do it for now. As always, thank you very much for watching. I greatly appreciate it, and we'll see you soon. Inert decoration for the living room. It'll look good right above the fucking A. Fuck.